The following program is brought to you in living color by Trek World.
Kathy Evans, good evening.
Hey, Kathy.
Alexiana, hi, how you doing?
Hey, Alexiana.
Sci-Fi Guy is with us at first thing. Good afternoon, good
Awesome.
evening, depending on whatever time zone you're in. Actually, I guess it's
Exactly.
evening no matter what. It's even 7 o'clock for me. So we're going to actually be doing the Galileo tonight. We're doing the Galileo pretty much from beginning to end. And this is being recorded. So the first 30 minutes will be recorded as well as the rest of it. And after 30 minutes, we go off the air, and the patrons, including free patrons, when invited if they wish to join us, can join us in Zoom and run through the remainder of the evening. The entire channel will see the recording sometime probably next week. We'll put it up so that everybody can see it.
Yep.
And I do advise everybody to take a good peek at it when it does come up, because I think you're going to see a lot of really good content. You're going to see pictures you've never seen before. You'll hear stories you've never heard before. This is really, it's almost, think of it if you want to, it's almost like a writer's room production breakdown for what's going on in the documentary.
Right.
So we're going to be talking about everything you possibly can imagine about the Galileo, including screen uses and some of that nature. Now, before I get started, though, I have to acknowledge the passing of this weekend. And normally, and as most of you are undoubtedly aware, we have a patron that normally joins us from time to time, David Alexander, who works at Mission Control in Houston. Well, he's been a little busy the past 7 or 8 days, so he hasn't been able to spend time with us.
So he says.
It's something to do with a moon landing or a moon shot or something like that.
Yeah, whatever.
But I have to actually say, Red Shirt and Kurt, good evening. I
Good
have
evening,
to
folks.
actually say something to Weather Watcher. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip you. Whoever it was that put together the crew for Artemis 2 did an absolutely extraordinary job. Now, I watched for the past week, and this weekend in particular, there had to be something about Easter and everybody just slowing down and paying attention to what's going on with Artemis. But these 4 astronauts have done more in 1 week, basically, to take our eyes and minds and thoughts off of the crap that we're living in and focusing just on the childlike wonderment that they're experiencing up there. And I mean, the moments they're sharing with us are incredible. If you go down and you search through Twitter, which is something I normally would not recommend you do, but in the case of NASA and the Artemis space launch, do so. You'll be astounded by what you read in there. I mean, some of the things I've seen over the past weekend that just absolutely that blew up all over the internet and the whole world, in my opinion, whether it was the female astronaut, I can't think of her name right now, making the announcement of them naming the one crater Carol after Reed's late wife, or the same astronaut taking, a photo of the moon with an iPhone. And then I love this, somebody actually says, what was that shot with? And NASA actually responded, it was shot with an iPhone 17 Pro. It's like, okay, thank you for that plug. Tim Cook, you owe them some money, my friend.
And honestly, that is so amazing.
It is.
Compared to Apollo, the guy's shooting with his cell phone, that you're able to shoot pictures like that from a cell phone.
Yeah, just absolutely astounding.
Some like Hasselblad cameras, weren't they?
The Hasselblad, yes.
Yeah.
Big, huge click, clack. If it was, if there was a sound.
What a difference 50 years can make, right?
Absolutely.
And the same astronaut, the same female astronaut, I think she has like 332 days in space. And yet she apparently had an encounter with a water bubble. this week that just set the world, everybody just fell in love with her all over again. There are just so many things that these folks have done. I watched and I've discussed, I think on last night, I discussed some things my wife and I were watching just when the cameras were rolling and they were just being themselves. So NASA, thank you for a week of taking our minds off of what's going on and showing that there is a topic that everybody in the world can apparently talk about and agree about and associate with.
Mhm.
Yep,
So thank you so
absolutely.
much for that. And that, of course, goes straight to David and all of his friends down at Mission Control.
Absolutely.
And by extension, of course, to those four amazing people that are currently on Artemis. Godspeed, my friends, and we hope that you make
bet.
the entire return safe.
Amen.
That being said, we're going to move off Artemis. We'll talk briefly about the Galileo documentary Kickstarter, which is what, of course, is the spin-off of why we're talking about Galileo tonight. We're right around $7,000, within like $30 or $40 to $7,000. We have 17 days to go. Where it puts us at 70% of our financing. The odds are, it looks at that statistically like, okay, we're set, we're going to be good. But we still do need to raise $3,000 between now and April 25th. So if you haven't pledged, we would appreciate it if you would. If you cannot pledge, let's face it, we're in a country where there's one gas station out near uh, uh, Greg, although I'm not sure which county or whatever, but the guy said his gas station the gas was close to $10 a gallon, and the pumps will not go above that.
Yeah,
They simply can't go above $10 a gallon
he's
or
north of
9.99.
us. He's north of us and isolated. In
Okay,
San
yeah, I would bet
Diego,
he
we're
is,
looking
yeah.
in San Diego. I mean, he's running generators in order for power to power his
Wow.
station.
Wow.
So he's very isolated.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing around San Diego is around $6 a gallon. But again, that's California,
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Yeah. We're still around, we're still under 4 here in the Nashville area in general. Diesel, however, though, is through the roof.
Oh yeah,
Diesel's like $6, $7 a gallon around here, which is unheard of. As a matter of fact, like 2 years ago, it was a famous, people complained because a lot of the truck stops would put their diesel prices on top and their gas prices on bottom because the diesel
Right.
price was always lower than gasoline. And people would pull in off the interstate thinking, oh, this is cheap gas, pull in and realize, oh, that $2.75 I saw had nothing to do with gas. So anyhow,
We're
so
we're
money is
over.
tight. I realize that, but we have had a few people
Yep.
that have literally, we got a couple of people that have put in like $1 and $2 just as a thank you type of thing. Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps with that. We still have some last minute editing to do that we're looking for equipment on, and we got some location filming that we would like to do by the end of this year, up obviously at Ticonderoga, and also out possibly into Los Angeles, one or the other. We're not 100% sure yet which way we're going to go with that because it depends on how successful we go over our goal. We do both. If we come in at our goal, we'll pick one, or we'll settle in somewhere on that. So let's go ahead and talk about the Galileo. So I think the easiest way to begin this conversation for everybody is I have a photo album, and it is not the definitive photo album that I have, not by far. I probably got thousands of photographs, literally, of the Galileo. But I have about 286 photos in this photo album, covering every one of them is of the Galileo in some form or another, whether it's a screenshot from an episode, whether it's a shot from its existence out in the wild, or whether it's a publicity shot. And to say that every picture tells a story is an understatement because they really do. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to share that on the screen. I'm going to share the photo albums. You're going to see all the pictures, and then when I click into one, they grow up real big. You'll be able to see that one. And we'll scan our way through that photo album. And I'd love to say we're going to work from top to bottom, but if anybody's ever looked at the photo albums on your iPhone, it don't work that way. You save a picture, it goes in. You save another picture, it goes in. You find another picture a week from now, and it's 500 photos away from the first photo that you took. So we're going to be scrolling all around this thing based on, hopefully, my memory of what is in other locations in this photo album. And the guys have seen the album a couple times over the past week or two, so they might also have some, might remind me of something if I'm forgetting or ask me about something if for some reason I showed them something that they liked and it's like, well, Jim hasn't, why hasn't it come up yet? Or don't forget this one. So I'm going to go ahead and share the photo album and then we will start this discussion. This is really the best example of show and tell I can think of since my days.
I was curious. Do you have like a list of the production timeline for the interiors? I mean, Galileo Seven is probably the first.
The interior variations you're talking about, Greg?
Well, that's the point. You could look at a slide and say, well, that's from this episode because of the Nernies.
Right.
I have a basic idea in my head, and we walked a little bit through it the other night. And I think we can pretty much do the same thing again.
Yeah.
I think we got a firm understanding of what it looked like in the Galileo 7, because it was best documented there. We got a really good understanding of what it looked like in The Way to Eden. And then in Metamorphosis was also had a very different appearance inside from the immunity syndrome. Now, I think we may have some photos from other episodes because I think it was 7 episodes or something like that. We actually looked it up, but I can't remember what it was right now. They either in some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
But for tonight's discussion, unfortunately, I don't really have a timeline in mind, but we will map each picture we look at to some point on that timeline.
Excellent. Right. I do want to say one thing.
Yeah.
The upper left corner, that picture, it's reversed.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's reversed. Yep.
All right.
It's got to be immunity syndrome.
Yeah, most likely.
You can see the throttle.
Yeah, because Spock's never been in the right-hand seat. Exactly. This is
the throttle handles.
That's the problem with slides. Sometimes, and the red ones are obviously slides. Sometimes when the slides are put up, they are photographed upside down.
Okay, well.
Or backwards.
But thanks for pointing that out. I'd stared at that the whole time and never even really thought about it. I'd like to say I spent a lot of time thinking about the red slides, but in general, I haven't. Because they're red slides and damaged. But we're going to take a look at what appeared to be the miraculous reconstruction of a red slide tonight, which has changed my opinion on red slides, which means that I will be processing this one and others to see what we can end up with. What I think I want to do first is I want to take a look at some of the photos that we got in here of the Galileo when it was out in the wilderness, between Heisman and when it ended up at
Rebel.
What's the Jason Star Command? Between Heisman and it ended up at the Star Trek set.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay, so on the screen that you're seeing right here, the first of those photos is actually a quadrant of photos down here. Where's my mouse go? Come on, there it is. 3 screens. All right. So these are 4 pictures that were taken at the 1986 June, I believe, June 16th or so. Anaheim 20th anniversary convention for Star Trek. It was sponsored by Starlog. This is the convention that our buddy Steve Haskins had showed off his restoration for the very first time to a group of fans. Now, that was the first time he showed it off to a group of fans. It was not, however, the first time it had been shown off to the public in general. Okay, on its way here, it had actually spent, and we have no photographs of this, but it had actually spent a weekend at a swap meet in San Diego. Greg actually saw it there, called Kobe's. On its way to Anaheim, it was damaged. And the cowl on the rear left-hand side, and you can see that in the top left-hand side photo here, was damaged on the way up there. And so when he displayed it at the convention, the cowl was missing. it was presumed in most conversations and even magazine articles, because this was in Starlog and a few other places, that the damage happened on the way to Anaheim. I don't know exactly for sure exactly when it happened, but statistically, the odds are it happened in the parking lot at Kobe's, which was on the way to Anaheim. But it wasn't like somebody hit him on the road, which is the way it sounded. The urban legend sounded like he was transporting it to Anaheim and it got damaged, which indicated that something had happened to it during the transport. I'm pretty sure it actually was damaged when it was at Kobe's. Steve does follow the channel, but has never chosen to contact me, as most of the previous owners have either left a comment or sent a note for a friend or whatever. Their experience with Star Trek fandom has not been good. And so they pretty much avoid us like the plague, and I don't blame them considering what they've been put through. But I think that this is the way it happened. However, all we can say for certain is that when it left his house, it was fine. When it made it to Anaheim, it looked like this, and I'm pretty sure it probably happened at Kobe's. Trying to think of anything else on these pictures. I don't see anything else worth specific about. Now, there was a question. I'm going to go back out to where we were before. And in 1987 had asked, was the model in the lower left lighted? No, it was not. That was painted that way. That is an extremely perceptive question, though, because I think all of us on this call had asked that at one point, just as idle curiosity. Man, that looks like that's lit up. And no, it was not lit up. It was just the reflectivity of the white paint that they used and the bright lights that they shot it in. This was filmed immediately after Richard Dayton detailed it. And this footage exists both in still photo and in video, and there'll be examples of both in the documentary. I do want to point out something that we became aware of only fairly recently. And it appears to be an artifact of filming. If you look at that particular little model being suspended by, obviously, for I doubt they were wires. They were probably something like threads or filaments. Take a look at its landing pad. And you'll see that it's in what we've taken ourselves here collectively amongst the 4 or 5 of us. We've taken to referring to as a sled configuration. It almost looks like a ski sled, like it's a ski
or skid, yeah.
It ironically, it was not designed to be used that way on the Galileo. The correct way to use it is the way that you see in the bottom right-hand photo, right here. It was designed to be used horizontally, not vertically. And the reason that it was designed that way is that the entire weight of the full-size model, which is significant, okay, many thousands of pounds, the entire weight is supported by that landing pad in the back and 2 pads that you'll see photographs at some point here tonight that are attached to the 2, one on each nacelle. So you wanted to have the maximum amount of square inches down, and it was designed for that panel to be horizontal to give you the best support on the back end of the Galileo. However, it appears that multiple times when they filmed the model on the stage at Desilu, and I am talking not only about the little one here, but the big 22-foot model, they oriented that foot to be in ski sled proportion or configuration rather than to be in horizontal like a landing pad. And we're not 100% sure exactly why they did it that way, but you're going to see evidence of that in several of the photographs that we looked at, that we will look at tonight. And it's really nothing more than a talking point, but it is a curiosity because it happened more than once, which means that it was a deliberate thing to do with it and not something accidentally they did during one setup. All right. We're going to take a look for some more photos that are in the wild. Okay, here down in this corner, and I said, well, yeah, why not? This is the same day, just the front end. No, nobody wrote across the front of the Galileo. For whatever reason, in this photo, it looks like somebody's written up there, but you'll see from other photos I have that they did not. Notice the two openings in the bottom. These were for landing lights. They were never used as such in the series. Never had inserts ever for them. Although they were custom fit for lighting. I think there was actually a specific lighting fixture, if I remember correctly, it will be in the documentary, that they were designed to mimic. It was used on at least one occasion that I'm aware of to snake electrical wires through to provide some auxiliary lighting inside the 22-foot model when it was used for filming. Because they didn't want, obviously, any wires going in through the front doors, because the doors had to be able to open, close unrestrictedly for filming. And aside from those doors, the model is pretty much secure. It's not a whole lot of access panels to it. All right, so we're going to close this back up. Again, this is Anaheim.
Which is funny, because you would have thought that they would have had a spot where they could have run a cord out.
Yes.
You know, because it was designed, they could have had internal power. I mean,
exactly. I think that it's curious, because I think that
well, didn't we find a spot, Jim, underneath the left wing, if you will, where the pylon goes down?
There is a hole, and we will take a look at that. There's a hole over the port nacelle that could be used also technically to run power through the back end. But again, you wouldn't want the lines going under, so they may have been used in tandem with the two in the front and one in the back, so they could stick up lighting independently of each other and not have any cords running between them.
Right.
But they did actually have a covering for that. So you'll see that covering in that hole. That is blatantly obvious. It's been there forever, but surprised even us in the fact that we never really started discussing that until probably about 2 or 3 months ago, when one of us made a comment about, well, what about that darkened area right over there? And it was like, oh, was it added? And then we went and looked and saw, no, it was actually there from the beginning. And what we will see in, I think, a Heisman picture or two here in a few minutes, is that by the time Heisman had it, it literally was an open hole on the side of the Galileo.
Yeah.
Right.
These pictures were taken at in San Diego at some point, I believe, just after the trip to Anaheim. But before it made it to where it was going to be finally stored, where Lynn Miller would buy it several years later. I believe these pictures were taken by Max Cervantes. He has a couple of pictures out on the internet that look very similar to this, that he has his name stamped on. These particular pictures are sold on eBay quite often by people. And of course, no copyrights are attributed to them anywhere. Nobody has any idea what, when I write to the folks that sell these on eBay and ask them, can you tell me, where was this shot? Did you catch this in Redondo Beach? Did you catch this in Lomita?
That looks like a storage facility, Jim, because there's a camper
it's an outside storage facility.
Yep, campers in the back, campers in the front. I see a RV on the upper right picture on the one side, and the vehicles on the opposite side. So it's in a storage lot.
I actually have a whole other set of pictures that were taken in the same spot, and it's easy to spot this particular storage facility, because if you look very carefully at the rear of the facility, where the mountains are off in the distance, actually the bottom left-hand picture shows this better than anything else. There's a wooden fence that runs around this facility.
Right.
And that's very unique to every facility I've seen. So this is almost certainly, and you're going to see some other photos that I may or may you might not see, but I have other photos that are much better and clearer than these that were taken at this same facility. And Carlos Rivera was physically there and is in one of the pictures. So I know that, exactly when the time frame was that these were taken.
Right.
Let's back out again. Blood Nose, no, it did not start as a boat. It was custom built, and we're going to see some pictures of that in a few minutes. Good question, though, because a lot of people, how do I put this? Smart fans have known for quite some time that the Galileo's construction was really closer to that of a marine vessel than anything else you can imagine. And that was one of the reasons why when Adam Schneider bought it, and it had to be restored for the very last time, for the very first time, he took it to a shipwright. And of course, they restored it. It's exquisite beyond belief right now. So asking the question about did it start as a boat? Absolutely. The design sure makes it look like a skiff almost at the bottom, but no, it was actually designed by an automobile car designer, custom car designer. Okay, interior shots pretty much taken at the exact same lot that we just saw a moment ago.
Very much.
I do want to get into a couple things here and to drive some things home for some folks, okay? One, you're going to see in the bottom right-hand corner, the inside of the Galileo never, 100%, never, ever had like plywood on the walls or drywall or anything. It was always open like you see here, okay? Because it was not meant to be used as an interior set. There were an interior set that was built using 4-foot wide wild sections that could be joined together, and you will see a photograph of several of them in a couple configurations in a few moments, showing you what that interior set looked like for when they wanted to shoot pictures or video of the crew inside. So the Galileo itself was an empty wooden husk, okay? That's going to come very important in some of our discussions when we start looking at some of the episodes where the Galileo was filmed, okay? The other thing I want to point out is the picture in the top right-hand corner is evidence of a restoration effort that began with Roger Heisman. The Galileo today is one open hull from the rear deck to the front, okay? The interior set had a wall that would be moved back or forward as needed in 4-foot sections for shooting interior episodes. In the episode The Galileo 7, we clearly see this wall in the configuration that you see right there at the end of the shuttlecraft, so that they go through the wall. There's a small room in there that's probably looks like it's about 5 to 6 feet wide. We'll see that picture of that in a few minutes. And some instrumentation, and you cannot see the decking off the back of the ship at all. You don't see the impulse deck or anything. That was not in the Galileo when it was built in 1966. It was not in the Galileo when it was used by our friends at Paramount. It was not in the Galileo when it sat at the Foundation for the Junior Blind. It was put in the Galileo by Roger Heisman originally. It began to rot away, and Heisman, as you can see in these pictures, restored it when he had it, okay? It would again rot away and this time not be replaced. This is very important because there's a story that came to me in the middle of all of this about someone who owned the Galileo shuttlecraft. Yes, you heard that right. They owned the Galileo shuttlecraft. It sat in their front yard, not Heisman's, not Haskins, their front yard for an extremely short period of time. And they had nothing to prove. that this happened. They didn't take any photographs. They had a story, complete with maps and everything that I have. But they gave me a detailed account of how they acquired it and what it looked like inside. And one of the things they had said to me at that early stage was, it had two doors. We played inside of it. And as soon as they told me that, I'm thinking to myself at that earliest stage, okay, two doors, not the Galileo. Okay. There are a lot of fan-built Galileos out there that were making the rounds of the convention circuits. They looked nice, but they looked really cheesy. You would never mistake them for this. Okay. But a 10-year-old boy might. So when I first heard the story, I didn't think anything of it. He described me the door, he described to me seats inside of it, blah, blah, blah. And he described where he saw it, which was a location that no one else had ever talked about before, and a timeline that no one else ever talked about before, and a story about why it couldn't stay there that no one else had talked about before. So I filed all of that stuff away, and I continued on my research. And then I suddenly got a photograph while it was sitting in Heisman's yard of the restoration that Heisman did, as well as a story from two key witnesses, independent of the photograph, who not only told me about the restoration, but showed me the restoration, including pictures of this door and wall and seats. And suddenly, this 10-year-old boy had a memory that no one would have possibly known about unless they had really been inside the model. So that plays a very, very big part in early Galileo history. All right, let's move on from this. Publicity shots. We're going to move past here for a minute because I'm interested right now in the wild pictures. We'll come back to build pictures later. They're in the wild, but they're not what we're looking at. Real quick. Okay, when I mentioned a fan reproduction of the Galileo, right here, Nick Tate from Space 1999. Yes, you heard that right, Space 1999. He did a series of pictures at a 1982 August party in Maryland, near Hunt Valley, Maryland, where he posed inside of and with, along with a photograph. I have another photograph of Grace Whitney as Janice Rand. Well, Grace Whitney posing with the model as well, although I don't think it was that weekend, because I understand that Nick was the only one who was there at the August party. They did not invite guest stars, for lack of a wording, for the August parties, but Nick was a friend of someone's, and that's why he showed up. So the photograph that we see that I have in other places with Grace Lee Whitney in it had to be when it was at another convention at some point. But this is an example of one of the ones, like I said, you can pretty clearly see it's not the same size, it's smaller, the dimensions aren't quite right. The photograph that you see center row all the way to the right is a photograph that was taken of the model right after it was restored at the shipwrights that Adam Schneider did. They did an absolutely amazing job.
Oh, it's beautiful. Look at that.
Now, the photo in the bottom left-hand corner is a photograph of it when it was undergoing restoration at an Akron airport in 1991. The restoration was being helped out by folks from the Lagrange Star Trek group out there. Most notably, Ed Marecki was involved. There was a couple other people there that I have by name that are in the documentary. Unfortunately, literally in the middle of doing all of this, there was a massive falling out between them and between Lynn. And it just died after that. And Lynn then struggled from that point on to ensure that things got put back together and to do things on her own. It literally became a one-woman show from that point on for the next 12 years. Yeah, 12 years. Were all taken during the 1991 restoration. Another studio shot, kind of bad quality, but I have a nicer version of this, obviously, that was shot the same day as the sled shot we saw earlier. These are photographs of the Galileo when it was in the food court. Yes, you heard that right. NASA put it in the food court after it came back from the USS Intrepid. There was a shifting in management. So here's the story about Houston Space Center and NASA. Everybody wants to know what happened. NASA rolled this out on a red carpet event. It had a beautiful location in the Space Center that you'll see pictures of in a few minutes, and it was a pretty big deal. Then they loaned it to the Intrepid for around a year. When it came back from the Intrepid, the gentleman that ran the Space Center facilities and everything, that had changed, and there was now new management in place. And new management wasn't nearly as enamored with the Galileo as previous management. So they didn't want to put it back in the Space Center proper because they had already moved things around and everything. So their compromise was, we'll put it in the food court. There were issues with it being in the food court because of, even though it was roped off, as you can see, there were issues with just maintaining decorum around it, and they ended up taking it out of the food court and putting it in storage. And it stayed in storage for years until a deal was worked out to send it to Jim Cawley up at the Star Trek set tour. All right, we go back and move on. In the wild pictures, right here, these 4 color pictures that you see on the screen right here are pretty much in like the last of the storage facilities that the Galileo was kept in before Lynn ended up buying it in 1989, I believe. And then she bought it in 89, but was unable to pick it up and have it transported until 1991. So it sat in the same storage lot. And I have video of her actually arriving and then taking it apart and putting it on the flatbed trailer to take it out to Akron, Ohio. More photographs at the top here from various storage facilities. These top 2 photographs on the top on the top center and right-hand side are pictures from when Roger Heisman had it at Rebel Storage. Bottom photographs down here are, obviously you've seen a couple of them before, but these are photographs of the 1991 restoration again, including this photo, which I absolutely love. As you can see, the way they put the high intensity lights up to it as best as they could to observe the detailing on the hull and stuff like that. This is a really unique picture that is not really, it has been published before, but it's been buried really, really deep on websites that no longer exist. So being able to find a good high resolution, and I mean, if I click it up here, you'll see a really nice high resolution for that time picture was a real treat for me to find. More internal reconstruction from the 91. So here's where you can see the top of it still the roof hasn't been put back on yet, but you can see the internal framing, and this brings up a real good point here. You cannot possibly spend much time with the Galileo without having somebody bring up the Ship of Theseus. Or if you're like me and you're a hillbilly from the South, you just called it my grandfather's axe. And the idea is this, and we'll go with my grandfather's axe, that way I don't have to wax and try and pretend I understand how to say all these Greek words. Your grandfather has this beloved axe. He gives it to your father, but as the years go on, the wood handle rots. So your father then, makes a new handle to it, puts it up inside of it, and then now your father's got it, and it's got a new handle, but it's got the original steel. And then, during the time that your father has it, at some point he arrives, he wants to give it to you. The handle's still good, but now the head on the axe is, 2 generations old. And so he's going to put on a brand new sharp edge to it and give it to you. And now you have your grandfather's axe, or do you? Because it's not really the same axe anymore. Everything's been replaced. It's only your grandfather's axe in name. That is what people talk about all the time with the Galileo. However, there's a difference between my grandfather's axe and the Galileo, and you see it very clearly in this photograph. The bottom section of the Galileo, and you're going to see a lot of early design build photos. I scrolled past them, we'll go back to them, of when it was built. The bottom section from the wings on down had a steel rib cage, for lack of a better word. The entire superstructure is made out of steel. The door mechanism for opening and closing the door is made out of steel. All of these are original. All of that is there. What has been replaced over the years is that there are some wood ribbings that have been replaced. You can see them on the siding here where they weren't metal. There was no need to make them metal all the way up, so they've been replaced. And of course, pretty much all external paneling, the internal paneling, or pretty much most of the internal wooden superstructure has been ripped out and repaired, okay, or replaced. But the metal superstructure is still there. So for people who are curious as to, is there anything left from the original? Because I've had people leave comments on my videos and tell you, so there's nothing left of it. It's not even really the Galileo anymore. That's not entirely true. Pound per pound, most of the original Galileo in sheer weight is still there. I'd probably say 60% of the original mass of the Galileo is intact because it is steel superstructure. It is only the wood that has been replaced, which of course doesn't have as heavy density, so therefore there's a lot more of it than there is of the steel, but the steel justifies or constitutes most of the mass of the unit. Okay. We're going to come back to this picture, but take a look at it right here. This is a picture I think is absolutely awesome. Someone crawled up into the rafters during the 1991 restoration and took this photograph. I mean, and the juxtaposition of showing you it really was an aircraft hangar that this was taking place, because there's a plane right in front of it. This is an amazing shot. And the fact that this shot is not on every website, I mean, the fact that this shot is buried as deeply in history as it is mind-blowing to me. Because if you were going to pick a hero shot that needs to be in any presentation that you were going to do on the Galileo, this would be it. This is the 1991 restoration in a single shot. Everything you needed to know. If only it wasn't 1991. If only it wasn't such an inexpensive camera. But we're going to revisit this when I talk about some tool usage and some of these earlier photos. But I wanted everybody to see the original. This is an amazing picture. Yes.
That is great because it shows not only the original frame, you can see the wood and the metal together.
Yep. Yeah, and the rolled steel top up here, the little wings that are on the top of it. It's an amazing shot. And when I saw it for the first time, I remember thinking to myself, man, how in the world has this not been the centerpiece? I mean, there are shots that you see all the time. The shot that began my entire obsession with Greg and his friends. There's the shot there. There's the shot in Anaheim. There's the shot of it rotting when it gets auctioned off in 2012 or 2013. All of these pictures that have become part and parcel of the Galileo during its existence, and yet somewhere along the line, this one got set aside by somebody. And it's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. All right. Let's continue on our path. Come on. Keep moving down. Good shot of the outside of the door as they're doing some reconstruction on it there. Again,
And the
this is
doors
still
themselves.
1991.
Yep, the doors themselves.
You can see, yeah, the nacelles being repainted and reprimed after we saw them doing some spot welding and grinding on them a few minutes ago up there. Also, I like to call out this picture right here, because this picture is eerily reminiscent of another picture that would show up literally about 40 years later. They would come to us from our friends at the Star Trek set tour, where it becomes blatantly obvious as they're doing some touch up on it, where you can actually see the mounting point for the wings and the nacelles, and photographs showing a completely finished or even partially finished version of the Galileo without the wings attached and fully exposing those mount points are very rare and very hard to come by.
Yep.
Again, they're not super special, but the reality is people just didn't bother to photograph them. So I thought that was neat. I like that. Again, still with 1991, obviously later along in its reconstruction. I refer to this as like the good old days, because this is pretty much the very last time, I think, that the entire team got together. I think I would not be surprised if this picture was taken the last day, definitely last week, but things fell apart pretty quickly right after this.
Ooh, look at that. That center picture. It's got the all little Goombas.
Yeah,
Oh,
look at
yeah,
that.
the
Yeah.
little
Obviously
orbs.
obviously they bought new front ends. Here's one of the original cowls. You
Yep.
know, our friend the what do you call it? The
Landing
landing
leg.
gear.
Landing gear.
There's the two little balls that go on the end of the nacelles. Yeah,
Yep.
it's neat. It is. It's like, okay, this is batteries not included.
I'm just looking at the rings. It's just aft of where the domes in the front are. And then there is like a little thing that's got like three little rings in it. That spot. It's always been fascinating.
That mimics the 11-foot Enterprise model that
It
has the
mimics
Right,
same
the
three
it
cells of the
rings.
does.
Enterprise, yeah.
It's what they wanted to do.
Yep, and those are evident on the 11-foot model.
Yep. Interestingly enough, and I have to think back, and of course that's the subject of the next one of the and the next documentary on the other side of the Galileo. We'll be doing a documentary on the various restorations done by the Smithsonian. But if I remember correctly, the rings are the ridges like that, the accordion ridges I call them, on the nacelles on the 11-foot model appear to be darker in color than the rest of the nacelle. But I'm pretty sure I have some paperwork and some photographs by Gary Kurd that show me that that's an optical illusion because of the way that shadow naturally falls in them with the way they're designed.
Mm.
But they are in
When you
fact
look at
really the same color. They just look darker.
When you look at the nacelles from the Smithsonian pictures, it's actually looks the same color on the tops of the ridges, but the parts down inside look much darker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong with that one, but okay, so Weather Watcher says, well, guy, hopefully you'll forgive me, but I have to leave your stream. I have to go to bed at 4 a.m. My friend, get a good night's sleep. Don't worry about that. We're actually going to take this time now because we went over a bit. We're about 15 minutes over, but I'm going to actually sever, unfortunately, guys, those of you who are on YouTube, we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave YouTube right now. We're going to transition over to just the patron only version of this video. This video will continue for patrons, and you will see it also on the main channel about a week from now. So that if you missed it tonight, you'll get a chance to see it. This video is the reason why you want to become a patron, because this is exactly what we do on a regular basis.
Meat and potatoes. This is it.
If you think you talk to people about Star Trek and you think you know things and you think that you love it, you
ain't seen
have
nothing
a whole
yet.
life waiting for you you're not aware of. So good night, everybody on YouTube, my friends. Take care. We will see you tomorrow night at this time.
There we go.
Live long and prosper. We love you. And
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and shut us down from YouTube. Okay, I expect that we will. Yeah, we're spinning already. Look at that. Already done.
Okay. When we're all done, I have a
Yep.
picture to share of the Kobe swap meet.
Back in my
There we go.
seat here.
That is the sports arena. That is Kobe swap meet would be over to your left. And the shuttle probably sat in this area right here.
All right. Right towards the front.
So just that's basically it. I thought you'd like to see.
Yeah, because I have not. I haven't actually done what you just did. I haven't done a street view of Kobe's. I've done an overhead shot, but I never did.
Okay, all right.
I wasn't sure where it sat. Now I know. That's where, as we go on, Michael's rendered Galileo will come into play. Because I'm going to be using modern day pictures of things, and we'll put Michael's rendered Galileo where we best think they fit at the time.
Because you can just say, okay, move it a little bit. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, and it's obviously a reconstruction, so if we get it wrong, we get it wrong, but it's better than nothing at all. It's a lot better than nothing at all, actually.
Right.
All right. So we will return to sharing, and I will just simply cut this last like 5 to 10 minutes out or whatever when we publish, so that people don't have to sit around and just wait for us to start talking again. All right. So let's go back over here. And then work our way down again. So we're still at the Akron facility.
Ooh.
This
that shot.
This is much later than the other pictures, as you can see. The work that they had done in the aircraft hangar has begun to degrade significantly. And it got stuck here, which looks like we're dealing with an outdoor storage facility of some type. Probably one of the first locations she moved it to after she removed it from the hangar.
It's almost like another hangar.
At first, I was convinced it was another hangar, and it may conceivably still be, but the clearance on that is only about 10 feet. Because remember, maybe 12 max.
Well,
because the Galileo was, about 8 feet tall, and from the ground up, so there's not a whole lot of space.
Yeah.
But then this stuff over here looks like stuff that might have been set up. I don't know. It could still be on the airport ground somewhere.
Yeah, to me it looks like a small
plane.
It looks like a small plane airport. Yeah, that looks like a small plane hangar, like a Cessna hangar or something like that.
Exactly, something like that.
It's got a really big lift-up door there.
Yep.
Or it looks like it weighs a ton.
Yeah.
Or it could be several bays of that too. I mean, maybe they have tools chests and things off to the sides where they work on the planes, maybe too. Who knows?
Yeah.
Which would account for the large door.
It should be easy. What I can probably do is figure out exactly how high the ceiling is, because that's my only thought. Is it seems to me that even a Cessna, the rear tail is probably going to go over 12, 15 feet in the air, right?
I don't think so. I don't think they're that tall, Jim.
All right.
Because I've seen one. Mike and I have been around them, and they're not usually that tall. I mean, you would think they would be, but they don't.
Okay.
Well, if you had the exact address of this place, that would, of course.
Yeah, the one thing I haven't done yet is something that you can actually do, but it very rarely pays off, but occasionally it astounds people. Is you can feed this photograph and you can say, where was this to AI? And it'll sometimes come back and go, oh, this was a such and such.
Does
Well,
some
yeah.
photos have like data encoded in them, don't they, Jim? Like the date and
Yeah,
things of
but
that
only
nature,
if
location.
you're lucky enough to actually have the original photos. Most
Right,
of these
right.
web photos that get sent
Have been
out,
shared.
the
Yeah.
JPEGs don't store the EXF information in them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But if you look at the side of this, the red down here and stuff like that, you can definitely see, because the very next few set of pictures were from 2012 when she auctioned it off. So you can see, and there you see the ghost of the yellow here, that wherever that was the beginning of the way it looks now.
Yeah.
So the growth of the red paint and stuff like that, that all happened even while she had it partially covered for a while.
Right.
Here's a really nice interior. Now here's another thing that I need to call out to point out the dichotomy of things. You look at this and you think, my God, it is just rotting all the way through. But when you look at this and some of the other pictures I have, the interior is still in remarkably good condition when Adam bought it.
Yep.
Okay, so ironically, the restoration that she did, the wind, the rain, the water, because it was stored out in the open, under a tarp, sometimes with a tarp, sometimes not with a tarp. We have photographs courtesy of like satellite maps and stuff like that show you the different places where it was discovered during the great Galileo hunt of the early 2000s. And so it wasn't always covered, unfortunately. But you can see right here, by the time he picked it up, the interior was still in remarkably good condition.
Jim, I'm going to show you something real quick, just to give you an idea. Hang on, I need to turn my background off for just a second.
Yeah.
But this will give you dimensions, and I think that'll... Tail height of a Cessna 172, 8 feet and 11 inches.
What's the wingspan?
Wingspan is...
But that's not important because that's in the front area.
Right.
The wingspan is, oh, here we go. 36 feet, 11 inches.
See, that's what it just pushes into that. The tail goes into that back area.
Yeah, exactly. That's what as soon as I saw that, I'm like, that
could be right there. That looks like
hangar.
36 feet looks about right. That could be like 50 feet right there.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I would guess without any
Yep. My guess is after they did my guess is then after they did the rebuild that we saw them sit at. Matter of fact, these pictures right here are probably right there. They're inside that.
Yep.
So this is post rebuild. This is years later post rebuild, because these pictures you can actually see other planes inside.
That's a Cessna.
So that's the bigger.
That's a Cessna 172 behind it right there. That's a Cessna Skymaster.
Different hangar.
This here, this picture here is in a different hangar.
Right.
These pictures here look like they're in the new hangar. So there's a mixture of pictures.
That picture of the shuttlecraft though is taller on the trailer. It's actually taller than the tail of that Cessna.
Okay.
Yep. It actually exceeds the tail height of the Cessna behind it. So
yeah, so that puts it. I mean, that roof up there, it's sloped, but it looks like it's a minimum of 12 to 13 feet. Yeah, that's perfect then. Okay.
Yep.
So interior shots we've seen.
Ooh, where is this? This
is at the auction lot.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Because you can actually see they're dated February 22nd, and they got Lynn put her copyright on them.
And those photos are from Lynn herself.
Yes.
That's cool.
They say actually
cool.
popular property of Lynn Miller.
Oh yeah, it does. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm sorry. Just go back just a moment. What is that in the upper right corner?
That's the doors, isn't it?
But they're not the right shape for the doors.
No, they're not.
It's got to be
But
they aren't right. You're correct.
yeah,
But gosh, that's got to be. There's nothing else.
It has to be the doors. That's the only thing that the slots
Well,
fit.
let's go take a look at the finished model and see how the doors, aren't the doors recessed? Or
The
no,
doors,
they're
the
flush.
doors.
They're flush.
They're
That's
flush,
right.
yeah.
They kind of retract back and then
There you
screw
go.
over. It's got a really cool door mechanism.
They could
Oh,
be
it's
routed.
beautiful.
There could be okay, so the recess on the doors,
Mhm.
the edges could be routed. There could be a lip inside that would not show up when they close these doors.
Hmm.
And then you run a router around the edges, and that way there's like an insert they go into.
Well, Jim, earlier you showed in the pictures from Mariecki restoration, you showed the actual doors were sitting out. Greg and I noticed them
There.
both right there.
There's
Yeah,
the
right there.
doors. Where,
Yeah. There's one of them anyway. And see, and Michael's right. They are shaped. Those other ones were shaped wrong. They're rectangle. This has got an angle on
These
each
may be,
side.
so it may be that the other ones were work in progress.
It
Could
could
be,
be something
yeah, it
like
could
that
be.
was an insert.
Yeah.
You know, sort
Yeah,
of
they
like
could
the
very
inside
well have
of
been
it,
just
and
work in progress. They just, because there they are again.
Yep,
Yeah,
they're there
That's a
again. Yep.
91 restoration there. So that's a 91 restoration.
and that shot there, you can see the mechanism.
Yeah. Right
Where-
here.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
And that
so
was them
these-
again. Go up in the center, right above that top photo. Go down, go up a little more. There you go. Right
Yep.
there.
Yeah.
That's the one Greg and I noticed earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So they may have been, these may have been right here
God.
prepping to make new ones.
Yeah,
Let's go
it could
with
be.
work in progress and
Yeah. So this is Anaheim again from a different, Tom Duff, I believe, sent me these. He took some his pictures are, they're really
yeah.
more detailed
Oh
than
yeah,
the other
definitely.
Anaheim pictures.
Mhm.
They look,
not touching the push button.
look, and even the fact, even I'm sorry, even Haskins painted the ridges the same color as the nacelles.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, but he also doesn't. That's not two-tone there either.
No,
No,
you're
no.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
And that right there, we talked about this in a previous call.
Yep.
I don't believe that the original paint job was restored at all until after it was restored by the shipwrights.
Yeah.
We've seen
Yeah.
entirely too many pictures from Heisman's driveway to this and beyond where it was not two-toned. They painted over it and they used one paint. You know, it spent most of Heisman's years sitting outside. He never repainted it at all. He just primed it in different places.
Right.
And then when Haskins repainted it, he obviously repainted it all one color here. And
Well,
I don't think it ever got the correct paint color again until it was restored in New Jersey.
I think everybody, when they restored it, were restoring it per the way it looked under the bright lights in the studio and on the show. And that kind of tended to bleach out the bottom. The two-tone paint on the bottom wasn't that dark anyway. And I think the studio lights bleached that out when you saw it in the episodes. So everybody thought, well, it's all one color, when it really wasn't. But
now, one of the things that's interesting here is about the cosplay. So I wanted Greg to maybe chime in on this. It looks to me like he's got some version of a tricorder, but it's attached via Velcro.
Yeah, I'm looking at that too, and I'm going, is that a medical kit?
That's what I'm wondering.
I was
a medical
actually-
kit.
Maybe it is a medical kit. Because I'm
bet it
looking at
is.
that and I'm wondering, I'm looking at it and I'm just going, what in the world is that? Because it's not strung over his shoulder.
Yeah. I
But
thought when I first looked at it, I thought that's a very strange phaser. And
Actually, it looks like a medical kit on the front or something too, because he's got something black on the belt right there in the front. And
either that or he just hasn't bothered to.
that's not a
he's
communicator either. It's too
time
big.
traveling. That's probably just a Samsung Galaxy cell phone stuck there.
Yeah.
It could very well be. Yeah, it could very well be.
It just could be his regular belt buckle, and he just didn't pull his shirt down when he,
Yeah.
Yeah.
think about
That's true. It
everything.
could be. Yeah.
Yeah, what stands out to me in this restoration is how the yellow delta and the red stripe for that is just all wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the right.
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Color. Yeah.
Now, here's a really good shot also. We haven't talked much about it, but we mentioned it earlier. But there's a good shot right there. There's that panel that we were talking about.
Yep.
Right there.
Yep.
Mhm.
So when Haskins had it, was open. And then when Heisman refinished it, he put a plug in it. It had a plug in it when it was at the foundation after it was delivered from our friends at Desi.
I mean, that's the perfect spot to run a power cord.
Right.
Well, yeah, it is. It's hidden up underneath there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you could run a cord out of that up underneath the wing, down the pylon, backside of the pylon, and on the backside of the warp pod,
And
out
nobody
to the
would see it.
back, and nobody would see it because you could bury the cord where it left the Galileo under dirt or whatever terrain they had. Yeah,
and it's on the starboard side, which people don't go.
that wasn't the starboard side, was it, Jim?
It was the starboard side.
No, that's a port.
No, that was the port side.
Yeah, it's the left side. It's on the same side the doors are. So
Could
it's the port side.
could you go back?
Wait,
Yeah, it's the
which
port
one?
side.
Not that one.
Yeah.
Right there.
That
That's
one.
starboard.
That's a starboard side.
Yeah.
You know what it is? They're right, Jim.
It is.
That's taken from the back. That's right. It's taken from the back. Okay.
Because you can see Galileo in the front, up at the
Right,
nose.
right.
And
Yeah, and you can see the little boomerang.
So we
And
want
the
what we want
boomerang.
to keep an eye on then is we want to keep an eye on this because this may be an entrance that I've never seen anywhere, and I don't see any evidence of it on the inside pictures either.
Yeah. I
We
mean,
just
it's
saw an inside picture.
yeah, it's right underneath the supporting metal strut that kind of supports the fin and the pylon.
I mean, it would
In
be
that
right
area.
about here.
That ridge, that ridge that runs along. Yeah.
Yeah.
on the outside,
Unfortunately,
there's a ridge
off
there.
it's right off this picture
Yeah.
because this is where the mount point is. So I need to find another one. There might have been another plate on the other side.
Yeah.
There is a plate on the starboard side and the port side, but
No,
the
no, see,
starboard
no, it's
side
not
is
there.
There it is. Well, no,
No.
it is not. Well, they may not have cut it out yet, but they did cut out the bottom.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's hard
There
to
is
tell.
there is one on both sides, but it's at a different location. I think the little
Yeah.
more
All right.
forward.
That's fascinating. That's something we haven't discussed until
Yeah,
No,
we
he's
haven't
got
left
there.
it.
That's the
Look
one
at.
on the.
So here is this is when it was on display inside the Space Center.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's actually been in two different locations, even inside the Space Center.
But yeah, that's the starboard side again.
Yeah, you see, it's
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It's
That
not
just looks like
really-
a plaque,
it's-
though.
it's not really there at this point because
No, that's just a plaque.
right,
something.
that's just a plaque. And if it were here, if it were hidden by this wing here,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
then it would have been visible in the photo we just saw a few minutes ago.
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
saw
exactly.
between the two mount points. So
Yep.
it might have been something only Haskins had in and it rotted out.
Yeah.
But we'll
Right.
keep an eye open for it.
It's
Definitely.
And,
of
then
course,
this,
some of the
unfortunately,
stuff-
is back in the food court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they got it half and half. I don't feel too bad. They call it a set prop. It's a set piece. As I was informed,
Yeah.
as I was informed by somebody who was an official grip in Hollywood that worked on Star Trek, a prop is something that a grip would handle, and a grip would never come within 1,000,000 feet of this.
Right.
But that's fun. I just noticed that set prop. So hey, they covered both their bases. Although, man, that was wicked. To allow direct sunlight to hit it like that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah, you'd have to put some like a reflector on the doors.
Okay,
Like that
so
light.
whenever you see it day glow like it's at Cosmic Bowling, that's on board the USS Intrepid
okay.
Yep.
under the wing of the Enterprise.
All right. So the lit up front of the
The
pylons is
nacelles.
just the nacelles. Yeah, that's just some lighting up. That's not, they're not actually lit though, are they?
Yes,
They did? Yeah, I guess
they
they
did
did.
That
light
was
them.
lit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were never actually lit in the series though.
Well,
No.
yeah, they never showed them, but yeah, I mean, they never showed them lit if they were, but yeah,
They may have
for
painted,
all we
we'll have
know,
to
they
double
were.
check. We'll have to see. They may have painted on the filming miniature, they might have painted them white, like they
They
painted
were,
the
well,
rear
they
deck.
were a flat
We know
white
we saw them
color.
paint, we know
Yeah.
we saw the rear painted silver. There's a
Yeah,
beautiful picture right there of it.
Yep.
yeah. And that's more what they looked like on the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so, and of course, there's the Intrepid and the Enterprise. I like this
Yep.
picture. She's
Oh
tucked
yeah,
away right
Yeah.
under
Yeah,
the
I do
wing.
too. I like that one a lot.
I have better pictures than this, but that's a nice picture.
Yep.
Here's her arriving at the Houston Space Center after she was donated. Very rare picture. And then now I want to talk, and this is basically for the folks watching this and participating remotely. We're going to talk about AI for a minute. All
Do we
right?
have Jim? Do we have anybody that's besides us that are on the thing? You never really have mentioned.
Right
If any,
now, let me check to see if anybody has. I don't
I'm
think
just
I have
curious.
not
Yeah.
brought anybody in the waiting room.
Okay.
So I'm checking to see if there's anybody. Yeah, there's nobody like Red Shirt Bob did
Did
not
not
join
make it.
us
Okay.
in.
I'm sorry. I just was curious as all.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Well, yeah, because the other night we got to talking and forgot all about the fact that Red Shirt Bob had connected, but he was only audio only.
Yep. Exactly.
So I want to talk about AI. Okay, AI, it's depending on where you read, it's the end. We all watch Terminator. We know what happens when AI wakes up and realizes exactly what we've been doing to it, and probably more so among Star Trek fans than any other fan base I've ever seen. There is a universal hatred of all things AI. I get constant. I got a comment yesterday or whatever on one of my videos that said that they love everything about my videos and despise my thumbnails because I'm using AI to generate them. And I'm thinking, okay, well, in order to get people to watch your videos that don't know you, your title and your thumbnail are all you've got.
Yep.
And the reality of the situation is you may hate AI, but the reality of the situation is the vast majority of the American public reacts well to it. And a good AI thumbnail will attract someone watching your video. Okay. So, however, there are people out there that view that it's wicked. AI, how do I put this? We've been told for years, and it's a true statement, guns don't kill people. People do. Okay. The gun is a tool. AI is a tool. And what I want to do is I want to remind everybody about the photo that we saw in Paul Lind Center Square. Because I'm going to blow this up and invite you to take a look at it now. And
Beautiful.
I'm not going to go back and show you the original fuzzy because I don't need to. Your memory of it is quite correct. Okay. This is that photo reconstructed by AI. Do not write off a tool or a technology because some people can use it to do something that is negative.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with AI. What's wrong with AI is
It's
the
the people.
use that people put it to.
Yep.
Okay. Some of the things I like watching on YouTube with AI for Star Trek are wrong for AI to do. The Starfleet Dreams videos are a real good example of that. They make really good music videos. They're obviously very, very in-depth fans. There's
Right.
another guy who's going out and recreating animated episodes in AI. And okay, that looks neat. It looks really good to look at. It's illegal. It's wrong. It's a violation of intellectual property. Okay.
Yep.
But because people are using it to do things that are wrong doesn't make it bad for itself. So don't take it easy. When you see a video that says, when it bears something that actually says this video bears AI content, don't make the assumption that the content in the video is there to fool you, trick you, or make you believe that something that didn't happen did.
Right.
Because AI is used in many cases for voiceovers. It's used in picture generation. It's used for outlining. It's used for story ideas. And it can be used for picture reconstruction. And I have used AI quite religiously on this channel for picture reconstruction for some time now. Now, garbage in, garbage out. So while we're talking about AI and we're talking about picture reconstruction, I'm going to show you a photograph before and after AI, and then we're going to talk about the weaknesses of that photograph before and after AI. And this is a conversation about the weaknesses that we have not shared collectively amongst ourselves. So this is going to be the first time that you guys, you patrons, are seeing these two pictures side by one after the other, along with the comment that I'm going to make about some of the thing I observed. And we're going to have to ask ourselves in an open conversation, is the AI reconstruction flawed and therefore should be thrown out? Or does it still have merit in that particular circumstance? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you up to one of the worst pictures I had ever seen. Somebody was selling a slide on YouTube, on eBay. And the slide had shifted red. It was horrible. There we go. This picture is of the Galileo sitting in the Eden planet on the way to Eden. Last time it is overdeveloped, undersaturated, and just in bad shape, not to mention it's already begun its red shift. There's still some blue and teal that's still visible in there, but most of it's magenta right now. So I fed it to AI to do an image reconstruction because I was just curious, what would it look like? And what it came out with was something that appears at first blush to be jaw-dropping.
If I can find it.
Yeah. That's the side effect of
There we go.
288 photographs. There it is. Look at that. Okay, let's talk about trees. Trees look pretty darn good. The sky looks pretty darn good. The grass, including the fact it's not real grass, looks pretty darn good. That is obviously a set. Okay, the clarity is astounding. I'm looking at it the other night and I'm going, this is beautiful. This is flawless. I couldn't ask for anything more. And then I noticed something about the Galileo.
Yeah, I do too.
The tail.
Yeah, it's got a hole in its butt.
It looks like a roll-up door, you know.
Hatchback.
Yeah, it does.
So I'm going, okay, this is useless.
There's also something in the red stripe in front of the USS Enterprise, right above the wing. There's something like lettering in there that doesn't belong in there, right in there.
Can I zoom in? Let me see. Hold on a second.
Sure you can.
There's no
like you got a
dash
slider.
between NCC and 1701. There's the Galileo text is
It's so close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
So close.
but it's, in
From
a
a
way,
distance, it looks
in a way,
okay.
it reminds me of decals that are coming off the old AMP model
Yeah, it does.
as time
Yeah,
goes
yep.
on. And ironically, I think the process that we're talking about is the same thing. It's bits and pieces of a full lettering system that have vanished for one particular reason or another.
Right.
Okay, now what I'm going to do though is I'm going to go back. Let's take a look at the original. Because as I look at it, I'm going, okay, now I've identified enough things on that Galileo picture to make me think, okay, this maybe probably isn't as useful as you would think.
Well, those
But
that
then I go
lettering,
back to the original picture, and let's just take a look at the original picture.
that
Can you
lettering
copy
looks
that slide
pixelated.
and then paste it down next to the other one?
No, because it does your iPhone, your photo album will not sort that way.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'd have to remove it from the
Actually,
photo album into a different application,
yeah.
Right.
which is just a pain in the butt. It's easier for me, especially for these kind of one-off things here, to just go ahead and scroll.
There we go.
Oh,
It almost-
look at that. Oh.
Yep.
Dun, ta-da, dun, ta-da, ta-da. I can delete the one at the top.
Yeah, you've got it.
You
Right.
got
Right.
it. It does look open in the back. Yeah.
So I'm going to blow it up.
Hey, that is amazing.
Huh.
The original looks.
Yeah, the original actually has all of 100% of the damage that we saw on AI. So
Yep.
AI, in this particular routine that I used, the AI is instructed by me, don't create fictional details that don't exist. Reproduce what you see.
That back end, the very top is where where the quote unquote engines are, but underneath it you can see a light just a shade of lighter underneath that dark band.
It's bad lighting.
It's a lighting
on the back
thing.
end.
It's a shadow effect. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks more like the other way. It looks like a door.
It looks to me like they took this shot and then decided not to use it because it wasn't lit properly.
Right.
So they sat it aside.
Yep.
But now that raises a question. If the original is damaged this badly, okay, in its original condition, then if I were to have to pick between, I can only save, I have two printouts. I have this red printout and I have my AI printout, and I'm on the Titanic and they told me I can only take one with me. Which do I take? In the beginning, my answer was, I take the pretty one. When I started examining the pretty one, my answer was, I take the original.
The original.
When I go back and look for the damage on the original, I'm back to I take the pretty one. The original one's just as damaged.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is important, okay? Because key to being able to restoring these original pictures is replacing these original pictures. The amount of storage that is required to restore and correct, say, 100,000 photos, slides, and then keep their uncorrected versions because you don't
an
want
original.
to get rid of the authoritative source is not practical. People aren't doing it. More importantly, those exact same original sources that you've got there, they're going to continue to fade out until they're completely gone anyhow, because the slides are going to continue to degrade. And this is a very real task that I'm dealing with right now, because my gut instinct is I do not want to save damaged original photographs. I want to salvage them in the way that they looked at the moment that I have them and just be done with them. And if there are inconsistencies in the final photograph that were inherited from the original, then so be it. The problem is I've got this mindset that if it isn't perfect, you can't keep it. It's not real. It's not useful. But I think the question is, I think the lesson to be learned here, and I haven't even taught it myself yet, is that is not a legitimate answer when doing restoration on photos.
Right.
Well, I think one thing that would be relevant here is that if you do an AI generated restoration, that it ought to be marked as such.
You can mark it as such, but and I don't have a problem with that.
Right. And the reason why I say that is because if it gets out there and it's floating around and people are looking at it and they're looking at it as though it's an original, they may then obsess over details that aren't real.
Yes.
And then you're like, well, oh, but if you mark it as this is an AI enhanced or whatever,
Mhm.
then you at least are telling people, hey, details in this may not be correct.
Well, what you're telling is the AI is interpreting that, because that's what AI does, is it interprets the details in the photo and
Right.
restores them. So if it misinterprets something, yeah, then it's going to show, somebody's going to squawk about it. So I get where Mike's coming from, and I think that's fair, really.
By
Okay.
the way, are you interested in seeing what it looked like in the TV show?
Yeah, you have the screen.
Yeah.
I will, if you'll allow me to share.
Yep. Hold on a second. Let me go in and close this window.
Because I don't really remember it
Yeah.
in terms of, it's been a while since I saw that episode.
There's those
Yeah.
tree in the pink bush where Adam lay.
Okay, so take a look.
His
Okay.
fate.
So that screenshot right there,
Mhm.
if you blow that up, my AI almost nailed it entirely. The distortion in the distortion in the reflections, the distortion in everything,
Yeah,
it's
that's
exactly the
actually
same.
right.
Yep.
Now the beauty is, because this screenshot exists,
Mhm.
you don't even need the AI master. But
Yeah.
consider, but my question is this. My AI master and this side by side might almost be undetectable from each other.
I'd
If
love to
this
see them
didn't
side by
exist,
side, actually.
if this
Oh.
didn't exist,
Yeah.
would you? The question's still there. If this didn't exist and all you had was the orange thing to begin with,
Right.
is the AI version now? And here's the other thing that that when Mike was talking about marking it,
Mhm.
and I technically don't have a problem with that. But I will show you where problems arise, because they arise two ways.
Yeah.
Shaw, what's his name? The guy who did the 3-foot model. When he tried to reconstruct the 3-foot model.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Shaw Designs. Okay. He made a scale model of the Phase 2 Enterprise, and he sold it. Okay. So he made something and he sold it. And in order to sell it as part of the sales package, as part of the advertising for the package, he took 4 key photographs from Star Trek history behind the scenes. One of the model up on a rigging in glorious full color to be shot. Another of a profile. And then he shot another of a profile inside the Phase 2 hangar bay or dry dock that never was used. And then 2 more of it sitting inside that bay from the reverse end. And he showed a picture of the model he showed one picture of the model, then he showed another picture right beside it that appeared to show the model at 2 different stages of construction. He didn't mark those pictures in any way whatsoever. Okay? The argument could be, well, he didn't use AI. No, he used a product called Photoshop, which has the ability to modify photos the same way AI does, and has been modifying photos the same way AI does for well over 2 decades now.
Yep.
Okay? He released those photos as part of his please buy my model market, and they got out in the wild. And to this very day, they're showing up on websites all over the world as photos of the Phase 2 model, and they're counterfeit, every last one of them. Okay.
Yep.
They weren't accidentally, they weren't AI accidents. They were deliberately constructed because he was trying to show you what his model would have looked like in those conditions. They were constructed, ironically, they were constructed to do the very thing that people are afraid AI is going to do. They were constructed to fool you into thinking they're real.
Yep.
Okay. So I stumbled over them. The guys on the call remember this. I was
Yep.
not pleased when I finally was able to prove, as I'm digging into this, that in my opinion, the pictures were a hoax. And I still think they're a hoax. I still look at them the way I look at Bigfoot photographs. Okay. And it's behavior from an individual that I expect far better behavior from.
Right.
Okay. He's a professional. He's damn good at what he does. He has an incredible skill set, and he's still incredibly capable, in my opinion, as serving as a subject matter expert on the Phase 2 model and on the 3-foot model. Because he had to reverse engineer the 3-foot model whenever he thought the 3-foot model was gone. So he had to reverse engineer it, and what he reverse engineered was pretty damn good. He's incredible. But because he wanted to sell something, he concocted something that didn't exist to make his product look good and release it.
Yep.
Now, what if he had put his watermark on it? Would it have made if he had put AI modified by so on and so forth, or photoshopped by so on and so forth, would it have put the photo, if he had put that on the photo, what is the side effect of that? Well, I'll tell you one of the side effects. It's something else I rail against all the time. Just look at the photos that have been restored by, and I got some in here I can show you, the great bird of the galaxy. Okay? People take original photos all the time, and they fix them. Whether they fix them with Photoshop, whether they use Microsoft Paint, I don't really care what they use it with. They stick their name on it as a watermark. Or they just stick a watermark on it, period. But they're doing it mainly for vanity, because up until this point, everybody stamps their name. Okay?
Yep.
Those photos are useless for historical archiving purposes.
Right.
You just modified the photo. So what am I going to do? I'm going to crop your stuff out. Okay? Now in AI, I can remove your stuff now. Okay? You guys saw a photo. All right, hold on. I was not necessarily ready to show this to the people on the line, but we're in this area right now because this is
Down the rabbit hole.
a good.
Yep.
This is a good conversation. It still ties the.
We're hip deep in it. So
Galileo.
let's, yep.
Let me load up PowerPoint. I want to show them the Lisa picture. Original build? No, Heisman years. So bear with me for those of you watching along. I realize you're not looking at what I'm looking at, but hopefully I will be able to show you what I'm looking at.
Greg, just a minute ago when your cat was on you, all I saw was the back end and the tail. I thought you were wrangling some kind of space critter there.
Yeah, that's Alice.
Ah.
I've left the door open, and they've kind of taken over this room, and Sylvester's headed off to theirs.
Does Alice have a restaurant, by the way? Sorry.
Yeah, you get anything there except
Off topic a little bit.
Email. Let me go to my email for this because I did this with Brian Mix.
You know, you talk about AI and pictures. My background that I just threw up there, that is not AI. I actually stood in for Shatner and did that scene with those.
Added it in, huh?
And of course, I know when you're talking about, changing something to make it better, I'm thinking about like food commercials where they're using glue for milk and then putting the cornflakes, setting it up. There's the picture. Look how good this looks like, or a hamburger, how it's painted and all that. And then, well, that's enhanced. I mean, it's a physical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
they're trying to sell you a hamburger, though. They're not trying to document for history what a hamburger is.
Right.
You talk about that, and just the other day, I noticed that on fast food commercials, you see they got a hamburger, right? They got the hamburger, and they got the hamburger like this. They go, but you never actually see somebody eating the food. You know what I mean?
It's never, even in Big Bang Theory, they didn't.
Because they're going to do about 40 takes of that in a typical commercial.
Okay, so here we go.
Funny.
I want to show everybody a picture that was given to me.
That one.
Yeah.
Okay. We know nothing about this young lady except her name is apparently Lisa. And maybe MD is her last name initials. We're not sure. No one has ever been able to get in contact with her. This is another one of those examples. And there's another photograph I have of her, of the Galileo when it was sitting outside Heisman's yard, also at the same time with her name on it. And she has vanished into history. This was sent to me, and I deal with photos like this all the time. So, ironically, about 10 minutes after this was sent to me by the guys at the Land the Galileo thing, I gave them a response that amazed them. And that is this. This is that same picture. AI. Created in less than 10 minutes. And you can stare at this picture a million ways to Sunday. Would this picture benefit from putting a brand on it saying this was an AI recreation of an original? I don't believe it would. As a matter of fact, I think it would be detrimental, because what will happen is, the first thing that will happen is the next person who copies it is just going to crop that out. And now you're dealing with a smaller version of the picture. This is a problem. And right now I do keep both the original and the modification, but I'm hoping that people see where I'm going with this. And that is that there's a point when documenting that you have recreated something electronically is not adding any value whatsoever to the original item. No one's ever, of these two images that I have, there's not going to be a person that I'm ever going to meet that's going to say, Jim, give me the first one. I don't want the second one. I'm not going to meet a person who's even going to say that they even need to see that first photo with a name scrawled all over it and being curled at the edges and so on and so forth. This is a far better example of the problem I'm trying to illustrate than the Galileo photo was. There are photos that I can tell you right now, no one, if somebody had cleaned this with Photoshop, if my buddy Mike McCreel had cleaned this, he would never put a comment on it saying this has been altered with Photoshop.
No, that's quite true. That's quite true.
So when you start thinking about putting watermarks on an image because of its content, you have to think about the fact that it's not one of those things. It shouldn't be. It could be. It could be. It's like, well, if you do this and do that, but if you do this and don't do that, it should be a binary. Do you do it or do you not? Yes or no, period. You know, it's if I modify a picture, I should mark every one of them. Okay? This is really going to come into play in the documentary. Every photograph you're going to see on the screen in the documentary is AI generated. I'll tell you that right now. Almost every one, to a T. I have the originals, I have the AI generated ones, and the AI generated ones will blow your socks off. The difference? There will be a video of some type, ugly as sin, maybe a slideshow video, but I'm going to put a video as an extra of all the originals for you. So if you want to, you can go into the extras on the DVD and you can go look at the originals. But you know what? You'll do it one time, you won't finish it, and you'll never go back to it again. And when you look at something like that, you got to ask yourself, when you're dealing with thousands of pictures, and I'm not talking about what does Jim do with 10 pictures for the Galileo. I'm asking, what does Jim do when he decides, and I'm very close to starting this process, to color correct and restore thousands of red slides? Thousands. I'm not kidding. It can be done with AI. It can be done inexpensively and cheaply. And at the end of the day, especially when you consider that every one of the results are only there because you have a degrading red slide that's already damaged, is there any value in saving the red slides at all?
No,
When they're going to double your storage.
now let's.
And if there is there any value with and as much as I hate to say it, taking it a step further, is there any value in stamping a watermark on the ones I kept saying, hey, these are AI enhanced?
Well,
The user who's looking is not going to know or care.
You could throw something at the very end of the end credits saying some images were improved,
and that is definitely going, and that's definitely
with AI, and then just go from there, and then you're done, you're covered.
I believe I have no problem. It's going to be in the end credits, and it's even going to be mentioned verbally in the videos.
Then that's
and I think that when you're on a web page, I think alt text or captions that it's AI generated, perfectly fine. It's the modification. It's actually including a watermark in the image, which, to Michael's comment, is the more valuable thing to do. If Shaw had put a watermark on his image, I wouldn't have wasted my time with those 4 pictures. But at the same time, I would have been mad at him while I thought they were real because he put a watermark on them.
Right.
So I'm unhappy with him either way.
Well, I'm wondering if you can put it in, say, the metadata of the image. But see, here's and this is me being obsessive about it, but the problem, you compare it to, say, Photoshop enhancement and all, but the difference, though, is that when you run it through the AI enhancement, it can invent detail that's not really there.
Right.
I mean, you remember you and I, we were looking over an image of Leonard Nimoy standing by the shuttle.
We did that collectively together.
Looking at it, and there were all sorts of things that the enhanced image had basically just made up.
Right.
Or distorted.
And in that circumstance,
yeah,
that image needed to be tossed, and we did in the long range.
Yeah.
And I had the same response to it that I had to the green one. It's like, oh, wow, look at this. Because I was showing you guys one of the routines I'm writing that took the picture and removed the watermarks. Because what we're talking about in that case, there was a photograph and they had stuck their watermarks all over it because they're selling it on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I popped it in AI real quick and it came out and I said, this looks incredible. That was my first response. And Michael said, Jim, take a better look. Mm-hmm. And when we did, it was like, okay, it doesn't. If that photograph had been saved by me and I tossed out the original, that was a bad judgment call on my side, and it never should have gotten there. So I believe that every one of these photos needs to be examined. And if there are problems with it, it does in fact need to be tossed. That you can't just we should not just arbitrarily spit it in AI and take what AI comes out. And so that and that goes into one of the reasons why I haven't just started ripping through thousands of these things, because even though I've got AI doing the work, there's a lot of effort that's going to be involved in reviewing these things to determine whether or not I can actually click the very last button that says delete original. Mm-hmm. And so there is some quality inspection that's got to be done. It can't be just an automated process that a human doesn't take a look at. Mm-hmm. The easiest way, I think, to mark something like this, but it would get changed almost immediately by everybody who did it. But the easiest way would be just to actually put AI or AI photo and then a number, actually change the actual name of the file. to include AI at the beginning. It's just that somebody will right click it and change the name anyhow. But
Yeah.
anyhow, we're going to go back to the other Galileo pictures. But this picture I wanted to bring up because of AI reconstruction of early Galileo pictures. You're going to see that in the documentary. The originals are going to be made available to you, and there will be disclosure both verbally during the documentary and during the credits and the acknowledgments at the end of the documentary. So everybody's going to know that. But I expect that I am one of thousands of people right now that is doing this stuff.
Right.
So I think the genie's out of the bottle already. And so the question really becomes, how big of a problem do we have? And is there something we can do about it? At this particular point, I'm not sure. I wanted to call attention to a couple things, though, before we leave this one. Okay? One is you can see above Lisa's head towards the back, you're looking at a metallic thing running across the top. And if you're wondering what that metallic thing was, Roger had put interior lighting inside the model. Okay. Nothing fancy. These were the long tube fluorescent bulbs that he had put in there. The other thing I want to call your attention to is notice that he put the false wall in the back, and we've seen that, and that's good. But you'll also notice this like gray thing beside her. He actually, at this point, did try to put in an interior wall over the ribbing of the Galileo. And it ran pretty far up in a couple of pictures that I've seen. But it did not last long, because it was not long after this picture was taken that it ended up in Lomita. Then it ended up out in Rebel storage. And by that point, all of this stuff was gone. The chairs were gone. The interior lights had been stripped out of it. The woodworking was now exposed again. So it was not long after it made its way to Rebel storage that it was stripped, probably by fans. I wouldn't be surprised if a bunch of people took the seats or cut out sections of the panel inside, thinking that they were cutting away original pieces of the Galileo they could take and say was there for their collection. That it was
Jim,
really easy to do. Yeah.
Can you go back to the original photo of this for a second? Same, and keep it blown up same size.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Where is it? Right there. And
okay.
Hold on. I gotta show it to you because it's only showing one screen at a time. So
gotcha.
I gotta close this one.
Okay.
And then I'll take you back to share the other. Oh, that window. There.
Okay.
So
does anybody else noticing what I'm seeing? The chair on the lower left-hand side looks like an original chair. Look how smooth the arm over where the light reflects off the left side of the back and the light reflects off the left arm. Look how smooth everything is. Look at the seat behind it where she's got her hand on it, how rough and both the back edge and where her hand is. Look how rough that fiberglass is.
Well,
and the same thing with the one that she's leaning on the other arm. Yeah. That's rough too. And that on both the arm and the back. And Jim's photo really pointed that out. The other photo he cleaned up, the AI photo really pointed that out. That looks to me like that's an original chair on the lower left-hand side that Roger might have got his hands on. And then he created the others himself using that one as a mold.
What Jim Kirk told me was that there was one inside.
I bet that's the one on the lower left.
And that would be the one that you would see when the hatch opened.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, and these four would be behind that.
Right.
Well, but I mean, look at the difference in that one, though. I think that one's an original as well.
Well, but keep in mind, though, I've got two experts that had eyeballs on it that said that's not the case. Okay. However, how could these be original? I'll talk about that in a second because it's a possibility. But it arrived with all 7 seats when it went to the foundation. When it left the foundation and Roger got it, only 1 seat was left. I have multiple people telling me that from the foundation that worked there and played there, that it only had one seat in it when they saw it. And the person who told me about it coming with Seven said that by the time it left, all the others had disappeared. Jim Kirk said there was just one when Roger got it. Roger said he had acquired the other 6 and put inside. It had always been assumed that he had actually made reproductions, but he may have actually tracked down one or more from the ones that disappeared at the foundation. We'll never know. But it was always, because he never said, I have made more seats. But he did somehow,
but those two seats
create them.
Yeah, those 2 seats she's leaning on were not screen shot. I can tell you right now. Those are homemade. I mean, those are amateur made, because if you can see the ripples and the bubbles in them, and that's just unfinished fiberglass. I mean, Joey, you've seen cars that are fiberglass. I mean, you could tell the difference.
My it's fiberglass.
Yeah.
They're fiberglass,
that one in the front.
Now, the originals were fiberglass too. Could that be damaged? One in the fronts,
but they're sanded. The ones that appeared on the show were sanded smooth and painted.
But keep in mind, this picture's over 10 this year. This picture's about 5 to 6 years later. Those chairs have been played with by kids, and then they disappeared and were stuck in storage somewhere and lost, and then magically found again and put inside.
Right,
could what we be looking at, if they're original, could they be damaged? I don't think so. They're original. I don't think
so either. They're fiberglass. That what we're seeing there is in the fiberglass molding. That's not anything from damage. Fiberglass doesn't do that.
Yeah.
When it ages, it does not do that. Even if it's exposed to moisture, it won't bubble like that.
Right.
Those arms, those are amateurish made. Those aren't. And the one in the front is professionally sanded and painted. You can tell by looking at the arm on it and the back. It's smooth all over.
But when you're laying it in a mold, you're putting the strips in, and then you're putting resin on the strips, almost like when you have a cast put on, and you're gonna that you put the gauze in there or the fiberglass, and then
you layer it.
You layer it, you layer it.
Right.
It.
And
now I do have a photo that could come into play here. Okay, so my thought is. The question on the table right now is, could the one in the bottom right-hand or left-hand corner be one of the originals?
Right. I would say yes.
But I don't know if that would be, I don't know why he would have moved the one, assuming that he didn't get more originals, which is possible, but we can't prove. If there was only one original left to be had, and he had all the others cast by a friend, why would he move it from the pilot position back to the passenger position?
I don't know, but I'm telling you right now that not just that one in the lower left, the one in the very back right also looks like an original. They're both professionally done. I can tell by the way they're fine sanded and painted. That the front one and the one in the very back look like originals. The other two.
I will tell you something.
The one in the very back is about 6 inches higher.
I will tell you something that's been said about Heisman's work many times, and I don't agree with it, but I never eyeballed it, okay? But if you go out there and you search for it on the internet, you're going to hear all sorts of people tell you that his work was indistinguishable from the original. They even said his props were. Okay?
I'm not doubting that.
Communicator that's not.
I'm just looking at what my eyes can tell you by looking at them. I mean, that may be fine for communicators and phasers. Not necessarily with the chairs, though.
That's quite true. I considered that particular one that we saw in the last picture, not in the pilot's position or co-pilot's, but directly across from the hatch.
The doors. Yeah.
So if you open up the door, that's the one you'd see.
That's the one you're going to see more than anything than the ones at the console. You'll see them from the side.
Yeah, but remember, there's 4 of them on the left-hand side and 3 of them on the right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And in that photograph, we saw the final 2. So there was 2 more in front of it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
So that would make
maybe
the third one back.
And the other thing is, it's possible he molded those 2 that look like they're and just didn't have a chance to sand them and finish them yet either. So that's possible as well. But
the other thing that comes into play with this, though, and while we're talking about this, is how the chairs were made. And this is not the best example yet because I haven't had a chance to blow everything up. But There's the chairs.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So now you see how they're made.
Yep, I do.
Okay. Now, there was some belief that he took these Burke chairs and simply modified them. Now, if that's the case, then there was never any fiberglass molding. There was just go get a Burke chair and modify it.
If there were any left, I mean, by the time
Yeah, but
the show ended,
the
I
Burke
mean,
chairs were used by everybody, is what I've been told.
What if
oh,
they
okay.
took a Burke chair for the first one and modified it and then molded the rest from that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
That's what I'd have done.
Quite true.
But less than 10 years from the original, wouldn't it have been cheaper just to go find more Burke chairs?
maybe. I mean, it depends on what
Maybe.
the
You knew
cost
what you were
was.
getting.
And if he had, if they were modified, and let's put it this way, it's easier to modify one and cast it than it is to especially if it took amount of time to modify it.
Very
than to
labor
modify
intensive
six
to
of them.
do 6 more of them. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
But
then you have
that,
six more to
that is
do.
exactly what Winfield did, because he talks it right here. He actually says seats were created. Okay, no. He did it once.
Yeah.
Seats were created.
That's how I'd do it.
And,
Yeah, that's
and
what I
will
would
tell
have
you
done it
this
too.
much.
Yeah.
One of the things that we never found out was, did he ever talk with Winfield? Because one of the things that we do know is that Winfield still had the mold and still produced these chairs for people for many years, and he had one downstairs in his own house.
Right.
So he would make them on demand.
Right.
So there is a possibility that Heisman could have reached out to him. But more importantly, I would expect otherwise that he would have done the same thing, and that is taken the one chair that he had to somebody who could make 6 more. And then the question is, why wouldn't they all look the same?
Right. But I'm just telling you, those 2 chairs, anybody on the call could chime in as well when they see this. I'm just telling you, those 2 chairs in that photograph look very amateurish.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to the other 2.
It was much rougher.
All of the chairs look damaged and fan-made to me.
I don't think they're damaged. Like I said, fiberglass doesn't damage like that unless you break it. Then you'll see the strands of the fiberglass in it. But fiberglass doesn't bubble like that. That's poor casting, is what that is.
Can it warp? I don't know. Is it
Master isn't that great.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
You know, and then you got to, if it's not good gel, you know, like when you're doing the gelling, then you're going to get a ripply appearance. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And a lot of it is mix it too. How you mix it,
how much hardener you put in it, and
exactly.
Yeah. You put less hardener, it's smoother because it takes longer to set up, and you can work with it more. And
so we're actually going to transition now. Good point, because this is a good point to transition to, because we wanted to talk about. Okay, here's those. Ironically,
seats.
Those same seats, you know, on the interior set. We're going to take a look at some configurations of the interior set, because we're coming up at the 2-hour mark, and we're not going to go more. We're not going to go a whole lot longer than maybe the next 30 minutes, if that. So we're going to talk internal configurations, because some of the things that we found that we thought were pretty interesting. So first and foremost, I want to call attention to this shot right here. This is a shot from the menagerie. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you'll see here is we have a false door, okay, with an internal room back here. And each of these wall sections were exactly 4 feet wide. And so it appears that they could insert this wall panel or a wall panel at 4-foot intervals, because you wouldn't necessarily want to build something that fit inside, and you definitely wouldn't want to modify the 4-foot wild sections.
Right.
And to give you some example of the way that they did this differently over the years, we have what appears to be here, let's say, a similar configuration to the Galileo 7. We could say that the first maybe 3 sections are all intact, so they got a 12-foot run in here, maybe even a 15-foot run, and then the remaining 7 feet or so back here behind this. But you're going to see some pretty different configurations. Here we have another one from what appears to be the immunity syndrome. In this case, notice they actually put like a false, like one of the walls that we see a variation of down in engineering and stuff. But this is actually pretty close to, because you're going to see Spock seated up front at the main controls in this episode, and this equipment is clearly visible behind him. So this is
Right.
actually being put up pretty close to the midpoint of the Galileo, which means that the Galileo was intended to be kitted out differently depending on the individual missions it went to. And it was portrayed that way on the TV series, but was never really acknowledged. This was
Right.
something I
Yep.
didn't know about till we talked about it like 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
We'll
The,
see a different kitting of it in a few other places.
And
here.
that
the picture
panel
with
at the
Kirk on
There's
the
exactly. I mean, he's sitting right up front. I
Yep.
mean, so they're literally at the 8 foot section. So the remaining, the remaining 16 feet or whatever are all behind this panel that you don't even get to see, which is really interesting because I wonder if they did that because they only wanted to put the 2 first sections on whatever area of soundstage they had. Because if you look here, I will show you, because I told you guys, those of you following along at home, I would. I'm going to show you some pictures of the assembled interior set.
that earlier picture of Kirk with Kirk, it almost looked like it wasn't flat, that wall. 'Cause
No,
it was
Looked like it might have had a
Yeah,
little
it didn't.
curvature
It looked
to
like
it.
a beveled
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, it just
And you could see the channel where the sliding door would slide
Yeah,
shut
oh,
too on it.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna bet they only just set up the first 2 sections because that's all they needed for the shot, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Right.
why bother assemble the rest of it?
There's
Right.
4 sections right there.
Yeah.
And we figured that we know it's 22 feet. And if each section's 4 feet, then that means you've got these 4 foot sections in here. There were 5 of them. And then roughly 2 feet on this front section, roughly. Because the 22 feet, I don't know if it was measured from pinnacle to the stern or whether that was
70
measured
gotcha.
interior floor space. It's hard to tell. But yeah, I'm thinking, just like you said, Mike, I'm thinking that for this particular episode, they only wanted to set up these first 2 wild walls. So they set up something, actually, they probably set up 3 wild walls, put something between the second and the third, and stuff things behind, because it did appear that there were some things behind the lattice work.
Well, and that machine, that console or machine that was behind Spock that he was standing in front of in that photo, down the bottom of it, there's a little panel, and looks like they just pulled one of those panels. Yep, that one there. Look at the panel at the bottom. That's just or the other one you had. But
Yeah,
it's one of the
looks like
boxes
it looks
off
like
the wall.
one of the panels, one of these kind of panels right here.
Yes. Yep.
Oh,
They
yeah.
just pulled it off
We
the
know
wall and stuck it.
we know that we've had at least 2 or 3, because there's been a photograph that we have in here that has
Right.
2 of these visible in the same shot, about 4 feet across.
Right.
They literally attach these things to the interior set. And while we're talking about that, there were a few occasions that they shot interior shots using the hollow model. And to do that, they had to make a few concessions that they couldn't do that could be done on the interior model. And the first thing I want to point out to everybody is whenever you're looking at a photograph that was taken on the interior set, you're always going to have this curved beige section of wall.
Yep.
There's one at the top, there's one at the bottom. It was unique only to the interior sets. The wooden set that was built for the Galileo set piece, of course, was regular ribbing, first strips of wood and paneling.
Right.
But let's take a look at some interior shots taken for the Galileo 7 that don't feature these walls. More importantly, they don't feature any wild sections at all.
aha.
Yeah, that was the thing that gave it away to us when we first looked at them. Come on.
I thought we saw one a little earlier. The
Okay, so this is from the
waiting-
Galileo 7, and you can see these interior
Yep.
shots obviously taken from the Galileo 7, but in the very same episode, there's going to be pictures taken through the door. Here we go.
And low.
And lo and behold,
Yeah.
first off, we have no gray. I mean, you've got no beige. Okay.
Right.
You can actually see you see here actually is the beginning of this is the metal superstructure here for running the doors. But that back there is some kind of bracing that's actually on I think running across the ceiling. But under any circumstances, you're seeing pieces that are of the full size, not of the section version. Also, every 4 feet there would be a seam. There is no seam. They actually slid a solid piece of wood in against the second seat across the back so that they could shoot from outside the model, have people sitting in the chairs. He's just coming out. Somebody's sitting behind him in a chair. So the first 3 chairs are in front of the door. This is why the Galileo is not the Galileo 8, by the way. There are 4 chairs on one side and 3 on the other. There could not be 4 and 4 because there was a door in the way. Okay. Here's another shot. Same scene. You know, the more I think about it, this thing up here actually is part of the door. I'm sure of it. It just happens to be at an angle. It's part of that door superstructure.
Well, the other thing is that the ceiling is about, 5.5 feet high.
Exactly. The interior ceiling is about 5 foot 4 inches high.
Yeah.
I always like that little drawer where the phaser 1s and 2s are in there.
Yeah,
I love
and
that.
the power packs and the communicators.
And there's actually another photograph I have which it shows you before he takes them out.
Yeah.
And I had said we were going to take a look at that on the call, so we're going to go zip down to it. This was fascinating because it's the only time, to the best of my knowledge, that there was a single scene in which every hero and mid-grade and stunt phaser was used in the same scene.
Yep. And that's on the far side, and then on the closest side, it looks like what appears to be extra power packs for the phaser 2s.
Yep.
Right.
Come on.
And 2 things. One,
Yeah.
that should have been labeled weapons locker.
Yes.
Yeah, it should have been. Yeah.
Or had some little that the yellow and black stripe something.
Caution.
And secondly, that should be in the transporter room. That they walk over like they did in the cage.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the third thing I think about is that when it folds back into the wall, it'd be sticking outside.
It's in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
It's like
should be on the very back wall.
It's like the Proteus. The interior is beautiful and everything else, and actually people are working inside what would be a real thing, not like this where they have a larger internal, inside and outside. The problem is you eliminate everything like, ballast tanks, anything that's actually operating a submarine.
Yeah, if that weapons locker had been on the back wall behind one of the seats on one side or the other,
You got it. Yes.
Yeah.
Either that or maybe on the back wall in the back.
Yeah.
Could have had,
Now,
but not on an exterior wall, basically.
As we're flipping through, I am going to call attention to something simply because of timing.
There we go.
The
Way to Eden picture.
Yep. Okay, so they did the exact same thing in the Way to Eden that they did in Galileo 7. That's a false wall split in the back. Okay. Yep. Interesting use of shade here tells me that they probably did have a light somewhere back here on the right, but the shade over here implies to me that it was not front lit through the 3 windows this time.
Like in the picture on the left
Right.
side.
It looks like these might be actually shadows being thrown off of by the seats or the people or whatever's inside as they're all coming out of the Galileo. Right. Look at the throttle levers because they changed. A lot changed on the manuals on
The
how to
Ginsu
drive
knife,
this thing.
the Ginsu
wood.
knife handles.
Yeah.
You know, they could have gone with the 3, like in the transporter,
Yep. They could have
Three
gone with
sliders.
and done the
sliders,
same
yep.
thing.
That probably would have been a lot more effective too. It would have looked
I mean, the
pretty
Ginsu knife,
interesting.
yes, I'm going to be slicing and dicing.
on the
Let me
console.
see. The center console underwent many changes.
Yes.
Yep.
Here's a picture of it here. Okay. But there's another picture through the rear grates here.
And
you
that's
can see
the
the whole lower
re-
portion, which
yeah.
is made with a little tape recorder, is
Yep,
gone
reel to reel.
completely.
This mission is, should you choose to accept it.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
can see the smoke
this
from the
panel was
other.
completely replaced in
Yep.
that. You got the red striping around the top piece. The bottom piece was never there. The analog gauges or the gauge and the 2 speakers and the metal bar has been removed. They were constantly moving around here. There's also at least 2 rows of lights, at the very least right here, which I don't think, yeah, they were there. They were there right there. Okay,
Yep.
this is from the immunity syndrome, I think.
Oh, yeah,
All
definitely.
right, so let's keep looking for what else might have changed. This was actually originally part of the center console when it was first, I think in the Menagerie episode, but I'm not sure. There's a
Yeah.
photograph. The center of that is actually, it's in here somewhere. It's actually yellowish and looks like an astrogation piece. They
Yeah, I
actually
believe that's a
removed the
chart
yellow wheel
recorder,
and stuck it
actually.
to the wall.
I always thought it was a like a temperature chart. You know, you change
Right,
the
yeah,
paper.
it's a chart recorder that would record like temperature or some analog reading and write it to a paper disc
Yeah.
over time. Yeah.
Almost like a lie detector has the little alarm on it that goes
Yeah.
writes.
Well, I've seen. I mean, it's yeah. I think it is like like a temperature or a barometric pressure, or something that you're putting in a wall and are
Yeah.
keeping the area temperature
Yep.
consistent.
I mean, I've seen some of those in old plants. That,
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, I
I've
have
seen
too.
photographs.
See, there's
Yeah.
2 of those panels we were talking about right there. Now they mounted them 2 different ways because they were slanted. They were narrow on one side, they were wedge shaped. And so they tended to put them with the wedge coming out when they were mounted lower and with the wedge coming out from the top when they were mounted higher.
Right.
Like it looks to me in this particular circumstance right here, they might actually be mounted 2 slightly different ways there. But that doesn't look to me like they're flat to each other.
There's the photo on the lower right of the weapons locker.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
there we go.
So wouldn't there be a chair there?
Where?
In theory, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's behind the chair.
I mean,
there.
he's like standing behind the chair, but technically he'd be standing right on the chair
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's sitting in a chair right there.
and directly
It's
across.
on the other side, it looks like, doesn't it? Looks like it's on the other side of the wall. Looks like he's going into the room to get to it.
No, I mean you can
No,
see
because
panel
there's
on
your
the side, same
there's
panel.
your behind him on there's your air grade oxygen gauge that Kirk refers to.
Where else do we see the whiteboard?
That one,
Well,
the
Kirk
pictures
was
with Kirk,
standing next to it.
Kirk and Mendez in the shuttlecraft, wherever those are at. Yeah,
There.
right there.
That's the
Yes.
wall.
Yeah, that's the
Okay,
back
which
wall.
means that's a back wall. This piece here was never part of the side panel on the set.
Right.
And that's what I'm
it's
thinking
the back
right
wall.
here. I'm thinking that what we're looking at here,
No, there's a
there's
corner
the
in
white,
there.
there it
Jim.
is right there. It's
Yeah.
on the wall.
But there's a corner in there. Yeah, he's actually pulling the weapons locker out from the outside wall. Like Michael said, it doesn't make much sense, but
Yeah, what do we know? You know, I
Yeah,
know.
because I
he's
mean,
got
if you look
here,
at
he's
the,
got it. Yeah, so right. He's actually the weapons locker is.
can you click
Yes,
on that
there
and blow it up?
there should have been a chair. There was a chair right there, according
Yeah,
to the
he
photograph.
pulled the chair out
Yeah.
to get to it.
There's the back of it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he would have had to stand behind a chair or in front of a chair. They removed it for the shot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so, and he
Could you
reached
click on that?
down.
There you go. Yeah.
And he also
There you
reached
go.
down to pick up his belt.
Yeah, because
Yep.
you can faintly see the corner line in the shadow. You can see the line of the corner. Yep, right
Yeah.
down there.
That's it. You've hit it. Yeah.
So
Yep.
we got one of the heroes here. The other hero he's already got in his hand. The mid grades are here. The stunts are all the way over. Now, one of the things that this photo and the production records of Star Trek illustrate, that is a what do you call it? An inconsistency in props, and that is we have records in UCLA that there were two TOS hero phasers made by Hua Chang. Could there have been TOS hero phasers made by Desilu afterwards? It's possible, but there's no record of them. And one of the things we do know is that every time that Roddenberry went to them to have phasers made, the work they did was so incredibly shoddy, he took it back to Hua Chang and said, make it usable. They're not even usable the way this was done. They charged him like $7,000 for the original set. Hua Chang charged him like $1,100 to redo them.
Right.
But there's a problem that we have more hero phasers in the hands of collectors today than existed in the series, apparently. We know that Jean had a hero phaser. He had it from day one. Everybody agrees with it. In 2013, he authenticated a second hero phaser. That there's some controversy behind, but he authenticated and said it was legit. It sold for like $250,000. We thought we were done, but we weren't, and that was the one. Okay, we thought we were done, but we weren't, because then in 2019, another phaser shows up.
Right.
And I take that back. The version that he had that showed up and sold as authentic was the second one. 2019, another one showed up, and the story behind it was that Hua Chang had a Phaser 2 body without a Phaser 1 component. He had it because he was working on it. Maybe he's going to repair it and get it back to them, whatever the deal was. But then, of course, Desilu famously broke off with him for union contract reasons in the second season. And so he couldn't work for them anymore. The result of that, of course, was he stomped out the Romulan warbird because he was mad. And he gave this Phaser 2 to somebody, and they had it for years with no Phaser 1 component. And then somebody who worked on the series took a Phaser 1 home from them. They worked in the second season. They took it home with them and kept it for years. That person got up with a person that knew Hua Chang. They put the two pieces together. You now had a full Phaser, and Greg validated it, and to the point that he said you could actually take the Phaser 1 out from his and interchange it freely with theirs. Questionable provenance here, but was authenticated and torn completely apart down to the component level. 2019 shows up, and Nichelle Nichols's her family comes forward, and they have a phaser, a hero phaser that she's had all these years and not talked about, but she's had it since the beginning of time. It's always been in the family. So, I mean, there's no questioning its authenticity. So it sells in 2019.
So would hers be considered a mid-grade? Because I saw on YouTube the auctionate people that did Nichelle Nichols, and hers had the Velcro on it, but her Phaser 1 didn't have like the raised sight. Everything was static on it, you know?
But it was a hero in that the Phaser 1 was removable. The mid-grades weren't, supposedly. Yeah. There were mid-grade Phaser 1s that were dummies, and there were mid-grade Phaser 2s that were dummies.
Mm.
But anyhow, so she had one. But then, 2 years ago, the William Shatner one shows up. The one that has actually been authenticated to, Was it the Phaser 2 that was authenticated to the making of Star Trek? No, it was Communicator that was authenticated to the making of Star Trek. But right now, there are more hero phasers because the Nichelle Nichols one was auctioned off as a hero by Heritage. The one that was auctioned off in 2013 was auctioned off as a hero. They auctioned off Greg Jeans after he died as a hero. And they auctioned off the William Shatner one as a hero, which gives us 4 hero props when only 2 were made.
Isn't that how the heroprop.com had its problems? I know there was something about often a problem with the provenance of a phaser or something like that, and that caused that website to go.
There was, I wish I could find out what really happened with Hero, okay, with the HeroCom websites. There was some kind of tussle, and then poof, it was gone. Years later, the HeroCom communicator site came back with all of its original information.
Yeah.
And the very first thing they did was criticize the restoration done on both the communicator and phaser that was sold by Julian's, the Kirk units. And their criticism was extremely unprofessional and rude, and subsequently was removed. It actually contained a sales pitch. They were trying to put one of their people in touch with the guy that paid $2 million to get the job done right, because the people who did it didn't know what they were doing, when the people who did it have just as much, actually more of a provenance than they do. I mean, the fact of the matter was, no matter which way you slice it, you're talking about fans who have set themselves up as experts. They have amassed an amazing body of documentation, especially when it comes to the communicators. So I'm not questioning their veracity, but I do question their ability to claim that they are better qualified than others because they're self-trained. And they have no one to endorse them for that. And so when you do things like they did with criticizing and calling it amateurish and trying to literally say, hey, give us some money and we'll do it right, that was pretty, that was just wrong, I think. I have the screenshots of those pages. They took them down because they actually said, we're only going to leave these pages up until the end of the month or whatever, because they knew that if they stayed on the internet too long, word was going to spread that this was probably not it didn't sound like the right thing to do. And they made a comment later about, by the way, we weren't trying to do this ourselves. We were trying to put someone that we knew in touch with somebody that bought it as a favor to them or whatever. But no, it came off very much like, hey, you got a hack job and we'll sell you something better, which felt very much to me like the guy standing outside McDonald's going, want to buy a watch? And that's but suffice it to say, there appear to be more heroes than were made, and there is an enormous amount of dissension about what's real and what isn't at this stage. And I would imagine it's even worse today than it was then, because quite frankly, fans have shown they can reproduce a whole bunch of things very realistically from original parts.
Yeah.
I would never want to be tasked with trying to authenticate something because I don't think I could. Anything else that comes into play that we haven't talked about? Because we got about no more than 5 minutes. It's 9:20.
The Nernies suddenly appear, Metamorphosis.
Yeah.
The stuff on
the things on the wall.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I call,
Yeah. There's little styrofoam boxes. These things appeared all over. That one, look, that one might be metal, but who knows? They appeared all over the Enterprise corridors as well. And they suddenly appeared in Metamorphosis. They were not present in the earlier episode. In Galileo 7, I believe that they did show up when we looked at the episode, The Immunity Syndrome with Spock and The Way to Eden, I think. So I think they
The
did
Wade Eden, we
keep
didn't
them.
see much. You'd have to look at
Yeah,
like,
you didn't see much
Yeah.
of the interior. Yeah,
We'll
just through the doorway.
I mean,
open
even
doorway.
Doomsday Machine, you don't really see too much of the.
okay, yeah. So they're not there with Spock either.
Yeah.
He's got like panels up there. So yeah, they changed them out. But then again, like I said, they heavily redressed the set with Spock for the immunity syndrome. Um,
It's interesting how the internal, when you have more cast members in the inside of the Galileo, it's sparse of
Yeah,
yeah,
of chairs and
an actor like Nimoy in that set. You have to dress it up with things to animate it
yeah,
because you're
exactly.
him in there.
Yeah,
Yep.
probably as much as probably that might actually have been a real reason for doing it that way. That's just as likely or even more likely than what Mike and I were talking about, where it was like,
Life for
why
him.
even bother setting up the other pieces when you don't need them? But at the same time, the decision might have been we have to make it look busier. Otherwise, it's just going to be boring to see.
right.
I hadn't considered that.
Or
Oh, here's a beautiful shot, by the way.
Animation in their own right.
Here's a
when they're all
beautiful shot of the Galileo from across the stage showing that fake wall. And as an interesting counterpoint, that's the exact same shot after being recreated in AI.
Looks beautiful.
But
Yeah.
there's a really, I mean,
Yeah,
a
looks
really
nice.
good indication on the false wall.
Yeah.
Here's another shot recreated by AI. When I first saw this, I was really writing this shot off because of imperfections in the 24-inch model. But when you go and you take a look at the original photograph and subsequent photographs of the 24-inch model, these aren't imperfections. These are actually features that were built into the 24-inch shooting model that were not on the larger model. So the
Yeah,
image is
that
100% accurate.
There is a panel there.
Yeah, it's just
The edge
very
It doesn't
weird.
really stick out that far in reality, but
Yeah,
but the top had etched, panels, etched lines and such on the
yeah,
top.
the very top of it, exactly. I don't think I have a photograph of it here. Well, not clearly. No. You can see them a little bit here, but there's a black and white high resolution photograph that I do have on another album somewhere of it that was recovered from UCLA that shows, because it's in black and white high resolution, it shows the top of the model from the top down, and it's heavily etched. I mean, heavily etched and very deliberately straight line etched, which
As
really
in-
raised questions as to why.
As in panels that would be removed
Yeah.
for servicing. I mean, the suggestion of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I don't think I have any pictures of that in here, but yeah, it was really weird when it was Doug Drexler, I believe, that found the original high-res black and white picture in the archives or whatever, and he was shocked because they had no idea that the model was etched that heavily. During that time frame, it was believed that the original markings were gone because it had been restored by Ed Marecki in 1991 for the 1992 Star Trek exhibition at Hayden Planetarium.
well,
Okay, we're at the last 3 minutes. So I'm going to end the recording here in a moment, and then we'll talk a little bit more after that. But I mean, not my intention to keep you guys any later than we did.
I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is in the model. This is the actual etching pattern that they give you for the roof line.
Yeah.
I can't
I
really
can
make
see
it
it.
out.
I can see some of it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's,
now I
I don't
can,
think that, but I don't think that's what actually showed up in the model, but yes.
Yeah, no,
I'm going to try to jump real quick, and if I can't, then that's fine. But I'm going to try to jump real quick here into another album that I have that may have that high-res flat picture that surprised Drexler so much. And I think it was a Gary Kerr series of posts that published it for the first time and made comment on the fact that this was not at all what they had expected to find. Oh, I did find it. And yes, it does look like that, Greg. Mike, here we go. Now, and I could, but I'm not going to bother with it. I haven't cleaned it, but there it is. And there's the etchings, and it shocked them. This actually, it came from the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences. It was not actually from the UCLA archives. That's probably why they were surprised to find it. Now look at that.
Yep.
Yeah, because those are all completely gone from the model as it exists now. As it was resold after Greg Jean passed. Crazy. Yep, there it is. The Brief History of the Galileo Shuttlecraft Galileo Part 5 by Gary Kerr. That is a 5-part series that I believe is on the Collector Model website, and it's very good. It is probably, until the documentary comes out, it's probably one of the more lengthy discussions and documentation of the Galileo, both the 22-foot and the 24-inch. It just doesn't get into a lot of detail at all about its history. However, it contains a lot of information. I recommend the reading very highly that Gary did. So I recommend that for folks.